Hello on the planet beyond. I'm Shadi in between here and there, and today I want to talk about carbon emissions, okay? Because all over the planet in different companies as well as countries which come together under specific agreements, which I'll get into more details, but this is to encourage you to look up this information yourself and be aware of what's going on in your community because a lot of these decisions are being made without your say so. So, with carbon emissions, there are two kind of like current events going on. One is in Canada. By the year 2035, they want to phase out gas powered cars and trucks, which I can see us, um, needed to look for an alternate form of energy. However, we really need to get into the grassroots of how that energy displays itself. Because I have a video on nuclear energy, and although nuclear energy has its drawbacks, it there are some positives, and that's why a lot of people are leaning more towards electricity. However, there are certain emissions, toxic emissions that are released into water systems because it needs somewhere to go. Once that toxin is created, it needs somewhere to go. And so, therefore, there are certain permissions given to different companies which release these toxins. They're given a certain parts per million, per billion, which they can release into the atmosphere, the soil, and the water. However, we have to think deeper that this is a collective manner, and so therefore we need to look at this in the entire scale versus saying, okay, China, India, United States, you're allowed to release a certain amount of emissions, and say India doesn't release all of their emissions because they didn't create enough emissions to even be released. Thank you. However, they'll sell those credits to another country. So therefore, now China can release even more carbon in their specific location because it's a collective, like they give it the idea of a collective manner in which like everyone's able to release a certain amount of carbon emissions. However, there's no stop. There's no conversation of, okay, great, India, you got to the point where you only releasing this certain amount and you're working to do better to decrease that. That's what we should be focusing on versus going in the direction of, okay, you didn't use all of yours, so send those credits to another country so they can further pollute the environment. The world. There's only one. We only have one and we have to take care of it. Okay, so with Canada's switch to more electric energy, it's great. However, it's nuclear energy. And we need to focus in on these power plants to see what water they're using in their nuclear reactors. Water is used in some of the cooling piping to bring down the temperature. It's a heat transfer, it's an energy transfer that's happening when that energy is released, when that energy is created in those nuclear power plants. 99.9, I think we're at that point to where I could probably say that most of these nuclear power plants use fresh water, which the planet only has between 1 and 3% of. It's a blue planet, but most of the water on the planet is salt water. Fresh water is in groundwater, is in surface water. Surface water is a very small percentage of the overall collective of fresh water. Your groundwater would be, things you see in the rivers, lakes, streams, ponds, estuaries, and of that, and not so much estuaries because estuaries do also have salt water there. It's like the waste collection point before it flows off into the ocean or the sea. And so, because fresh water is used to cool these reactors, that water is going to dissipate. Release as a gas. Water can move. Water doesn't always return to exactly where it comes from. that's on the land and also in the air, in the atmosphere. When those water droplets are raised into the atmosphere, humidity, pressure, etc., is raised into clouds, and then eventually those clouds get heavy enough to release the rain. It's not always going to rain directly back on that location. So those reserves, those freshwater reserves, are going to dry up. And that's what we're facing in a lot of areas. If you go over to, is it Rio? I know it's like a RI something. Let's see. So, or is it Eldorado? Not Eldorado now. I'll drop it below. However, there's a part of Texas that they are looking to, and looking to is not just a thought. They're literally putting this practice into effect, to where they're taking wastewaters, making it clean for people to drink. We're already there, people. So, yes, nuclear energy sounds great. However, what is being used in the process? How much energy is really being used and transferred into these electrical collection points for us to use, for it to be routed into our homes, for it to be routed into other power systems, the power grid? What is being used? That water factor is what people are getting away from and not realizing. Like here in Durham, North Carolina, right on a few roads back and forth, there's like 4 car washes. Yes, the area is increasing in people, but car washes, that is a lot of water. That is a residual. And it's also, again, our fresh water. Same water we drink, we bathe with, we cook with, we clean our vehicles, we clean our bodies with. That water is getting used, okay? So, it's a great idea. This is something they're trying to project for 2035, that they're getting rid of cars and trucks that are gas use. I would love to look at what proposal they have for the different parts of the vehicles that they've created that already are gas vehicles. What are you doing with the bumper? What are you doing with the engine? What are you doing with the carburetor? The all these different parts of a vehicle. There's a lot of parts. It's like a whole functioning thing, because it has like a brain and its circulatory system or whatnot. So what are we doing with all those pieces if we're going away from gas? We need to start thinking about that, because when there's natural disasters like floodings, hurricanes, tornadoes, we end up having these disabled vehicles, these damaged or these total vehicles that are just on the planet. So Canada, big up to you for wanting to go in the direction of a more sustainable future, but we need to look at all the aspects, okay? So there's some things I listed just in case you didn't get it or it went by too fast for you. What are we doing with the gas powered cars and trucks? What are you using? What are the parts? What are those parts going to be reused for? What are you going to do to those vehicles? And then also, what do your nuclear power plants look like? Where is that energy coming from? How is that energy being sustained? What water source are you used to cool those nuclear reactors? Because again, it sounds good, but what it looks like is we're heading towards a future where water is going to be severely limited, because people need power, but then people also need water above all of that. So we need to ensure that we're not just going for the hot new thing, the hot new solution, you think it's a hot new solution without thinking through all the levels of what's involved, the waste, the beginning product, the middle product, the end product, the people involved, waste, chemicals, transferring chemicals, storage of chemicals. I don't really advocate so much for just shutting down nuclear power, because at least at a nuclear power plant, the nuclear energy is being, first word came to mind is serviced, but it's being observed and watched and shifted. That energy is being shifted and moved throughout that facility and into different power grids, versus when people shut down any type of toxic chemical or nuclear energy. It's like there's a short period of time where that could be there could be some sort of maintenance, or there could be some sort of like security involved with checking and seeing if there's any leakages, spillages, or whatnot. But when a project commences and funds run out, eventually those bunkers, those shelters, those storage centers are just left barren, and those nuclear shellings too, like when uranium and other radioactive material has been mined and those mines are shut down, that radioactive tailings are still there. And so we have to think about that in a holistic manner, because we've gotten so far away from it to where we're just thinking, oh, okay, what's the quickest way to make money? Okay, you said the gold rush is over here, the nuclear power plant rush energy, the chemical energy, all these things, they sound great on paper, but we must take that paper, draw out a spider web. What all is affected here? Okay, because when we do that, we can start to set up a more progressive future, because right now we're getting the wheels turning for nuclear energy, nuclear cars, nuclear trucks. And I could start saying nuclear because that's what it is. Clean energy, nuclear, okay? Nuclear energy. So because we're getting the ball rolling on that, what does that look like for our future? And our future should not just be within one generation. We need to be thinking further ahead, so that way we can look back, the curators, the creators of this new technology can sit back in the ethers too. Sit back and say, okay, what I did was beneficial to the planet. It wasn't just some new gold rush, okay? The only gold rushes that we're really going to have on this planet surround science and technology. So that's why it's really important for people to be on board when it comes to science and technology, and finding where is your passion and what you can do to provide to the greater good. So it's a quick little video. I just found it interesting because of something being stated so matter-of-factly. In 2035, Canada is going to go away with gas-powered cars and trucks. That is a bold statement. What is the action plan? What does that look like? Where are you moving the vehicles that are already been created, already been in rotation? What are you doing with those things? And so we have to start really looking at that. And I would be interested, if anyone has connections there, within your rights, okay? I don't want y'all sending me proprietary information and get caught up now. So, information that's not secure or like not copyrighted, and you're able to share, you getting permission from your security team to release this information, I would love for you all to email me what that design looks like, because I would love to scan over it, and I could definitely give you ideas from one scientist to another as to what are better methods. I wouldn't say proper, because there's only one proper way, and that's through God. However, we humans on the planet are still trying to figure certain things out, and we think we know, and some people aren't following the light, so that too. So I appreciate you all coming to listen Please drop your comments below. Again, like I said, I want this thing to be interactive. So I'm going to be putting out nuggets of information, current events, different educational pieces. Like if you're not understanding physics, you're not understanding chemistry, organic chemistry, biology, microbiology. If you're not understanding these different things, I'm going to start creating playlists where I take these different topics and I'm able to digest them in a manner and create something for you to really use in your applique. So, thank you so much. We got to give most love to the Father, to the Most High God, the Omnipotent, Elohim, Allah, Uluwa, whatever you want to call it, because it cannot be given a name because it cannot be defined. Okay, that's why. Okay, these 1 and 2 syllable names ain't gonna work. So I will post this video. I do have another one coming up on carbon tax. I kind of alluded to it a little bit in this video, but I'll leave that specifically separate because I'm going to do a little bit more research and legwork on what that agreement name is so you can do your research, as well as what countries are allowed to release what carbon emission, the amount of carbon emissions, and what that looks like. What is the scale in which they're using to analyze? Like how are you collecting the data? If you're saying you're allowing this company to release this amount of carbon, what is being done on ground to see how much carbon is actually being released? What are we doing? Do we have some sort of remote sensing platform in place? Do we have some in situ scientists to collect this information? Where's the information going? Where's the hub? Is it public knowledge? There's a lot going on here. And so, yeah, that's just part 1. Cut. Thank you all for being here, and I'll be back on later.